superhero animation fans of the world, let's talk about The Death of Superman. This is from Warner Brothers Animation and DC Entertainment. This animated film is not to be confused with the Superman Doomsday animated movie that came out in 2007. In my personal opinion, that one was horrible. I don't know what they were thinking making that one. However, this 2018 Death of Superman movie is a little bit more faithful to the original source material. Somewhat. They deviate into a completely different direction, being that this is supposed to be part of their DC Universe New 52 animated world that they've established. So the core roots of this story is based on the 1992 to 1993 Death of Superman storyline with Doomsday, but it has its own thing with different characters taking the place of some of the characters that were in that original story. If you're not aware of this already by the title of this video, major spoilers. One big one right here, Superman dies. I respect DC Comics for making an attempt to have a coherent animated universe. This is approximately, I believe, the 11th film that's part of this universe is continuing on their storyline. I'm not a fan of their New 52 universe by a long shot, but still I do respect it. I can't list all of the differences between the original story and this new animated movie because there's way too many of them, but I will touch on just a couple of them that in my personal opinion that I think shouldn't have been changed. In previous DC animated movies, we saw that Superman had started a relationship with Wonder Woman, but obviously things didn't work out so well between the two of them, so that means that Clark moves on to Lois. And at the beginning of this movie, Lois is not aware of the fact that Clark and Superman are both the same person, and get to the point where he's introducing Lois to his parents, and after getting some advice from some of the other Leaguers to finally reveal his identity to her. Meanwhile, in space, we have the character Captain Hank Henshaw trying to repair a satellite when a boom tube opens up and it looks like meteors are coming out of it. Henshaw has a huge hero worshipping thing for Superman, and he's convinced that Superman will come and save him. Unfortunately, that does not happen, but this is setting up one of the plots going on in the sequel to this movie, which I'll talk about later. The meteors that land in the ocean, which Lex Luthor sends out one of his crew to investigate it, as does some of Aquaman's Atalanteans. This is where the creature Doomsday makes his debut, and holy hell, he is a scary thing from the very beginning. He essentially makes his way to land and just destroys everything and anyone that comes in his way. The Justice League does respond to this, but without Superman. He's having a heart-to-heart with Lois and revealing everything. When we see the Justice League take on Doomsday, they basically get their asses handed to them. I mean, all of the Justice League gets their asses handed to them. Wonder Woman, however, she does put up a pretty awesome fight. I'm really happy that the Martian Manhunter's being pushed again, not only in the comic books, but in the animated movies. Although I felt horrible for him when he was knocked into some flames, which happens to be his weakness. You can hear him screaming, and it was just horrible. Wonder Woman is saved at the last minute when Superman finally makes it to the scene. Here we get a huge epic battle where these two guys clash. We get to see Doomsday evolve a bit here and there. If you're not aware about his character, he is a mindless raging beast, but he also evolves as he's being attacked. Superman ultimately does fall, as does Doomsday. Although Superman's actual death bugged me a bit, I feel like the Batman v Superman movie influenced this, as Superman was stabbed through the chest with one of Doomsday's bony protrusions. Whereas in the comics, they both just had one major punch towards each other and they both fell. Sounds a bit morbid, but I like the idea that Superman was not beaten by being stabbed, he was beaten because he was beaten to death. But otherwise though, I feel like this was done fairly well. A full funeral procession is done, and Lois grieves with Jonathan and Martha Kent, but it ends off where we find out that Superman's tomb is empty and we see a flying figure in the sky, which could or could not be Superman. But wait a minute, there's more! There's several after credit scenes in this. Not only do we get to see John Henry Irons making his armor, but we also see the Eradicator forming the Fortress of Solitude, and we get to see Connor Kent, Con-El, also known as Superboy, to which this is going to be leading into the second part to this story called Reign of the Superman, which is scheduled to come out in 2019. So initial thoughts on this, I mean, I feel like the story was done well, and even though I did love the battle between the Justice League and Doomsday in this movie, I would have absolutely killed to have seen some of the B-list characters who originally took on Doomsday back in the 1990s. In that original story, the version of the Justice League that took on Doomsday, they really weren't quite that powerful, but still, I would have loved to have seen these characters on screen. I mean, I completely understand that DC Entertainment has this universe, and these other characters may not have been introduced yet, but I feel like it's a missed opportunity to go ahead and introduce them in this movie. Maybe saying that, hey, they've been around and they kind of formed their own Justice League Light, or maybe Justice League International. Also in the original storyline, there's a version of Supergirl that was helping out as well, too. This isn't the Kara Zor-El version that's Superman's cousin. This is a completely different version of Supergirl. She became known as the Matrix Supergirl, which I won't go into her and everything, but I personally liked her as a character too. I'm quite happy that this story was being cut in 2 movies, and that the sequel is coming out so soon. There are many different characters that are missing from the New 52 DC animated universe, and Superboy is one of those characters that I've been dying to see on screen. Although the few images we've seen of him up to this point, it seems like they're doing an amalgamation of Connor Kent and Jonathan Kent. Jonathan Kent being Superman and Lois Lane's biological son, while Connor Kent is the clone between Superman and Lex Luthor. Overall, I thought this was a great movie, and I feel like they did the original story justice to a point. The little nitpicking that I'm doing is just from a geek point of view, because I was hoping this would be its standalone movie where it wasn't part of an established universe. That way that we could see all of these other characters. It was part of the original story, similar to how the Dark Knight Returns animated movie came out, where it was also put in 2 different parts. But that doesn't really matter overall. Like I said, I did enjoy this a lot, and I think that if you're a fan of DC animation or Superman and the Justice League, I think you would like this movie. If you're interested in watching this, it's currently available just about anywhere. It's not a very long movie. It's roughly about an hour and 21 minutes or so it shouldn't take too long for you to get through it. Let me go and end this video at this point. Like I said, I did enjoy this movie with a few little things here and there that I could have done differently, but that's just my own personal thing. If you watch this movie, leave comments down below and let me know what you thought about it. And with that, thank you guys for watching me, and I'll join you guys in another video very soon. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button if you like this video. Also put on that notification bell so you know when I put up future videos. Check out my Patreon site when you get a chance. Check out my social media sites, my websites, and everything else out there. Peace, love, and namaste, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. I'm in love with the one who will always win. When we see the sequel, Reign of the Supermen, I hope they set it up for another movie afterwards where Coast City is destroyed by Mongol on the orders of the cyborg Superman, at which point we'll see Green Lantern Hal Jordan go completely insane. I would absolutely love something like that to happen.